Brought to you by Source Forensics. Are you looking for a video conversion service? Well, look no further because I got one for you. If you are looking for fast, efficient, and honest, Source Forensics is your go-to. Since 2003, they have been converting weddings, baptisms, sports, and other videos. They have become a reputable and well-known video conversion service. Their team is up for every job, managing projects with the skill and experience their clients have come to expect. They want their customers to be satisfied with their work, which is why they provide open communication channels throughout the duration of each project. Trust Source with all your precious memories stored on various legacy formats, VHS tapes, DVDs, CDs, mini DVDs, cassettes, old vinyl, and 35mm slides. Whatever the job is, they got you covered. Contact them at 401-203-5019. Again, that's 401-203-5019, or visit their website at www.sourceforensics.com. Again, that's www.sourceforensics.com. Now for our episode. Ball and RI and the Rhody Runback are happy to bring to you the Sunday morning basketball recap show, hosted by Ramon de los Santos and Jeff McMullen. Let's go. All right, welcome to the Sunday morning recap show, hosted by Ramon de los Santos and Jeff McMullen. The season's getting close to the end. We have a few days left of basketball, and then we have the playoffs to go. We had some exciting weeks we had some exciting games for the week, and some movement in the playoffs standings. Jack McMullen to the school record for 50 points to the record in a game. So we'll have that interview for you guys later in the show. Ramon, how you doing? What are your thoughts on this week and some movement we had going on?
Yeah, no, definitely exciting the last couple of days. A lot of teams making some statements at the end, getting some quality wins, some very pivotal wins. So the playoff picture just keeps getting shaped and then reshaped. So definitely a lot of good games.
Yeah, it's awesome. I know there's been some shakeup, especially in Division 3. Let's just jump right into the Division 3 games. We had St. Pat's versus Highlander on Friday. St. Pat's wins this game 75-48. They win this pretty easily. They had three guys in double figures with Ricky Fonseca, Keith Wilson, Cameron Davis. Ricky was the top scorer with 31 points, and Kaishan Turner was the highest scorer for Highlander with 20. What are your thoughts on this game?
No, great game for St. Pat's. I mean, at this point, you got to just keep winning those games just closer to kind of solidify that playoff spot. Ricky had a monster game. It was not only 31 points, but also had 22 rebounds. So it was definitely a monster game. Sometimes we only see the scoring column, but some of those additional stats, show a lot more about a player that sometimes we don't know. So he also had 22 rebounds, which is a monster game, 30-20 game.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I feel like that St. Pat's team is clicking on some certain levels right there. I mean, Keith also had 16 and Cameron had 14, so it's three guys and double figures. Those big double figures numbers. But
all right, now Cameron got his first in-game dunk, so I want to give him a shout out for that. That was a nice little in-game dunk. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that was great. It looked awesome. A quick fast break and put down the flush.
Yes.
All right, let's go to Prout versus North Smithfield. Prout ends up in this one 47-36. This is a big game for Prout to help them secure a playoff spot. They're led by John Estes with 16 points over North Smithfield, who hung in there. What are your thoughts on this game for Prout?
So this was a big game because they had a lot of player implications. So obviously Prout needed this win to kind of clinch the playoffs. North Smithfield needed this win to kind of stay alive and maybe clinch the playoffs. And North Smithfield battled the whole way. It was a close game the whole way until kind of Prout took away the lead at the end. John Estes continues to do what he does. But that's a big win for Prout. Tough loss for North Smithfield, and it kept some other teams alive in the playoff pictures because North Smithfield lost. That's just the nature of things. Sometimes you don't wish bad on some teams, but you need some teams to lose for you to be able to clinch. So that kept some other teams alive when they lost.
Yeah. It's be interesting to see what the shakeup is there. And like you said, North Smithfield is vying for that spot. Speaking of a team that's vying for a spot, Central Falls versus East EWG, another playoff implication matchup. Central Falls comes up with a big win against EWG. This helps them make their playoff push, and they go 3-3 on the season. And they're led by Warren Galva and Jaden Alberto with 15 points. What are your thoughts on Central Falls? And they started late in the season, and now they're making they played 6 games in, I don't know, in like 2 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, no, Central Falls started very late, and they've had a tough schedule. They're playing like an NBA schedule. They're playing every other game, so I can't imagine they haven't been able to get a lot of practices in, like most teams, but even more so for them. But they've been able to get some good wins, and they have a lot of different people. They have different leading scorers all the time. So that means they have a team, of players, different players that can step up. So good for Central Falls. Tough loss for EWG. They kind of started off strong and been kind of losing some games that maybe they should have won to solidify a playoff spot. But Central Falls is going for their spot, so it's tough.
Yeah, definitely. Now let's go to Davies versus Pontiac. This one was a close one. Pontiac almost upset Davies in this one and ruined their undefeated season. Davies wins this one 79-77. Davies is led by Isaiah Gonzalez, Isaiah with 22 points, and Raheem Rainey with 17 points, but Sal Bianca led the way for Pontiac with 26 points. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on this one? Davies squeaked this one out by just a little bit.
So obviously in D3, we have those 2 undefeated teams, and, it's tough. Everybody's trying to knock off one of those undefeated teams. Davies was able to keep the undefeated season. I know a lot of teams are probably watching that tape to see what Pono did to keep Raheem Rainey to just 17 points and to get a chance at almost winning. So a lot of teams are probably watching that tape, but they found a way to, take out, get the win. That's what's important. Sal Bianca's, it's a tough year for Pono, but he's been kind of having a really good year. He can shoot it really well. So anytime he has a little space, he's pulling it and he's making a lot of shots. But again, tough win. They only won by 2 points, but a win is a win. So Davies continues to be undefeated, which is very important. Not everybody can say the same, right?
Yeah, definitely. It was kind of funny. I looked at the box score and I was like, oh, Rainey only had 17 points. I'm used to seeing like 23. Like, yeah. 17 is still a big deal, but I'm like used to seeing them to 20. So
yeah. His average went down because of that game from 27 point something per game to 26. Still average. He's still the leading scorer in the state, I'm pretty sure, at 26 point something. And amazing talent.
Yeah, definitely. And then let's go to the last undefeated team in Division 3. Blackstone Valley Prep with the upset over Times Square Academy last night, ending their undefeated season run. BVP is led by Xavier Mendez, who had 27 points, and Jordan Mendez, who chips in for 16. Times Square had 4 guys in double figures, but it wasn't enough to beat Blackstone Valley Prep. What are your thoughts on that and the upset there?
Yeah, no, big upset there. I mean, Times Square was the other undefeated team, having a great season. Like we said about Times Square, yeah, they have a great team, deep talent. But BVP came ready to play. And we know BVP has had some ups and downs. We see Blackstone Valley Prep, played really good one game, and then another game they kind of not as good. But they put it all together for this game. They played well from beginning to end, and Xavier Mendez was a man. So we only see the 27 points there and the box scores, right? But he just lit up the stat sheet. He had over, he had a double rebounds, had like 5 blocks, had a lot of assists. He was doing it. He was doing it all. So that ends Times 2, undefeated season, and obviously they're ranked number 1 in D3. So what happens now?
Yeah.
So it definitely, towards the end of the season, big shakeup in Division 3.
Yeah, definitely. So, let's see those rankings because we'll see what happens now. Because I'm interested to see what the shakeup was. Because D3 there were some good games.
Yes, let's see it. All right, so Division 3, like we said, nice little shakeup here at the end. That big win by Blackstone Valley Prep. So some of the top teams are going to stay in the top just because they've won all year, and just one loss is not going to knock them out of the rankings. But there's a lot of people trying to get in. Moses Brown has been playing very good basketball, beating a couple teams recently. They've done a nice little win streak. Prout got a nice win recently, but that win by Blackstone Valley Prep was just too big. So they get that 5th spot to end up, the top 5 rankings. That was a huge win. You beat the number 1 team in Division 3, and you've already had a decent record. That kind of automatically puts you in the rankings. So got to give it up to the BVP for jumping back in the rankings a week before the last regular season ranking. So really good win for them. Number 4, St. Patrick's. We talked about they've been playing good all year. They've continued winning. they're clicking. I'm telling you, they have all their good players kind of playing well at the right time. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do in the playoffs. Number 3, West Warwick. So this is where it got a little interesting because West Warwick lost earlier in the year. They've been trying to climb back up. And then we had the 2 undefeated teams at the top. So West Warwick is at 3rd spot. Times 2 drops, obviously. You lose. You had a previously undefeated season. They could have dropped to 3 if West Warwick could overtake them. But I believe Times 2, just had that one loss against a very good BVP team. They kind of just dropped 1 spot to number 2 because they were number 1 before. And now the new number 1, Division 3, Davies. They've been doing it all year. Had a close game recently, but they've been doing it all year. Undefeated season. Congratulations to them. Top team in Division 3 is Davies. What do you think about these?
I think these look great. Yeah. Davies definitely deserves number 1. They had, a great undefeated season, and Times 2 and West Warwick was definitely a toss up. And I think Times 2 definitely deserves to be in that 2 spot because BVP, I think, is a really good team that, like we talked about, I think they had some really good, like with Xavier and, Jordan, those are some really good players and good scorers. And it seems like that's another team that's just clicking right. And yeah, I like these. These are all good, like West Warwick. West Warwick's tough. I think Division 3 playoffs are going to be super interesting because I feel like it's up for grabs, to be honest with you.
No, definitely. And honestly, when I look at these Division 3 teams, I feel like any of these have a chance to win it all. So that's kind of what's going to make it interesting because we're going to see some of these teams match up when they're all playing the best. And it's going to be very interesting. These playoffs are happening fast, right? So it's going to be fun to see those games just one after the other.
Yeah. One more week to go. It's going to be interesting for sure. Let's check out the playoff picture. All right, here is the Division 3 playoff outlook. Once again, Division 3 is the top 3 from each league makes the playoffs by best winning percentage as well too. That falls. So there was some shakeup from last week's. Central Fall is now in the playoffs as a number 8 seed. Scituate drops to a 9 seed. And then Davies still stays at number 1. St. Pat's moves up to a 4 seed. They're originally a 5. Blackstone Valley Prep was a 7 seed. They are now a 5 seed. West Warwick is the 2 seed. And they were the 3 seed originally. Before that, Moses Brown jumps in. They are now the 7 seed. And then Times 2 it moves down to a 3 seed, and then Prout was originally a 5 seed, and now they are 6 seed. What are your thoughts on these playoffs and these potential matchups as we closing close to the playoffs?
Yeah, so obviously, as we always say, this is what it would look like if the season had already ended. Obviously, some teams have a couple games to play, so there's still some movement, but this is amazing. Like, as soon as I saw this, I was like, wow, that 4-5 matchup. Like, we could see St. Pat's versus Blackstone Valley in the first round. That'll be awesome. That'll be a great game. A lot of good talent, a lot of athleticism. That'll be great to watch. And then I think West Warwick versus Moses Brown would be great as well. I think Moses Brown, they're kind of playing a lot better now towards the end of the year. So it'll be interesting to see because I think those 2 teams, their styles match up pretty well. So it'll be good to see. And Times 2 dropping all the way to the 3 seed, it's tough. And they would get a Prout team that it's a lot of good players and very well coached. So, that's a risky game for a team that, had been undefeated and now has to play, a tougher matchup. So these will all be great. This will be great to see.
Yeah, definitely. I fully agree. It's going to be interesting. West Warwick and Moses Brown played each other earlier, the first game of the season this year. So it'll be interesting to see that matchup. I feel like Moses Brown has kind of come more into their own as the season went on. So it's going to be, that'd be a good matchup. And like you said, the St. Pat's PvP matchup, I think is going to be one of the matchups to watch in the first round.
No, definitely. And I think one thing to know that a lot of people may not know is that for these playoffs, only specific league games that were part of what they call the master schedule is what matters. So a lot of teams have been scheduling a lot of non-league games just to be able to, to have kids playing regularly. So a lot of kids may be wondering how come we beat this team and that doesn't, matter for the playoffs. It's just those specific league games that were originally scheduled. Those are the ones that matter for the playoffs. So that's why there's a little confusion, but this is kind of why we put these playoffs outlook together so people can understand.
Definitely. And just a side note too, I think Davies and West Warwick played each other early in the season, and that game was actually considered a non-league game because it was just scheduled for get the kids playing. But yeah, that's a good point too, Ramon. I'm glad you brought that up because I think some kids had questioned why they didn't make it because it's just specifically league games only. So All right. Speaking of leagues, well, let's go jump to Division Two. All right. Now we're on to Division Two. On Friday night we had Timberton versus Chariho. Chariho was able to get the victory on this one, 65-39. Chariho was led by Tyler Bell. He was the leading scorer for Chariho with 17 points, and Jared Landach and Evan Trio both had 10 points for Timberton. What are your thoughts on Chariho and Timberton in this game?
Yeah, so some two teams that might have not been having, the best season so far, but Chariho's been getting a couple wins here and there that, quality wins, and Timberton's had a tough year. Timberton, for years, were powerhouse in D3, moved up to D2, and now they're having a tough year this year with a lot of younger players. So big good win for Chariho, kind of towards the end of the season, ending on a high note, and tough loss for Timberton. But I mean, two teams that are only going to continue to get better.
Yeah, definitely. And then we'll go to Hope versus St. Ray's. St. Ray's wins this one 67-58. St. Ray's is 3-4 in the season. To be honest, I'm not sure off the top of my head. They still have some games left to play because they're close to making that playoff push. They could win a couple more games. But St. Ray's is led by Jalen Sherman, who had 20 points, and Jaden DeLabamba, who had 14 points for them. St. Ray's is currently outside looking in for the playoffs. What are your thoughts on them? And
So St. Ray's also had to pause team activities and whatnot. So that's why they're a little behind with the league games. But I mean, they've made the most of it. I mean, they have been winning a lot of games that maybe some people wouldn't expect them to win, and that's kind of what you got to do to kind of earn those playoff spot. So good to see kids like Jalen Sherman scoring 20. Jaden DeLomba been doing it all year. The kid, honestly, really good player, good handle, has good court vision. Obviously, we don't get to see all the stats, but I can imagine, he's averaging, over 7 assists. The kid his vision is that good. So big win for St. Ray's. Tough loss for Hope. They've had a really tough season. Juan Severino's kind of been their lone bright spot. Kid can score regardless, of who they're playing against. So good for them to continue to build towards the future. Just hoping that, they can get some steady talent so that they can kind of make a run maybe next year or a couple of years from now.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll go to Middletown versus Rogers. Rogers wins this one 66-51. Rogers comes off a back-to-back win. They won Friday night against Mount Hope as well too. And Rogers beats in a rivalry game against Middletown here. And Rogers able to win this one by 15. They're led by Roshan Clement with 22 points. And Doug Madden for Middletown had 16 points. What are your thoughts on Rogers playing back-to-back game and getting 2 wins back-to-back?
Yeah, no, like I said, these schedules are getting crazy. So these teams, have to play back-to-back games, 2 games in 3 days. But they're making the most of it, and Rogers is doing just that. Those back-to-back wins help a lot. Rashawn's been playing good all year. He's somebody you get the ball, from anywhere from the free throw line down, and he's gonna score. Like, he just quick first step, can elevate. So yeah, looking to see what Rogers can continue to do. I don't know how many more games they have left, but they're a team, again, another team that started late and just been kind of making the most of their season.
And then the final game of the Saturday night was Johnston versus Lincoln. Johnston was just won 60-49. Johnston's another team that's coming off the back-to-back, and they actually beat an undefeated Wheeler team in a big win for them. And then this matchup on Saturday was a rematch of last year's D3 championship. They were able to get the victory by 11, and led by Tom Zednek with 20 points, and Hunter Remington, who had 16, and Octavio had 25 for Lincoln. What are your thoughts on Johnston? Because Johnston's made a good little run here as well too.
Yeah, Johnston's making an amazing run here. Those are 2 huge wins back to back. First beating, previously undefeated Wheeler, and now beating, Lincoln, and they just do it as a team. So both of these games I watched from beginning to end. So there's certain games that kind of just catch my attention, and I start watching, and I don't stop watching. And that game against Wheeler, they just every time Wheeler made a run, they found a way to kind of push him back. Same thing here with Lincoln. With Lincoln, they were kind of up pretty much the whole game, and they were able to just go. Tom Zednik is just so athletic, and then his mid-range jump shot, it's legit. So sometimes when he shoots it, you're like, oh, why is he shooting? And why is he not driving to the basket? But it goes in. And then the guards, Hunter Remington and Derek Salvatore, those kids are balling. So that game against Wheeler, Derek Salvatore, every time Wheeler got a little close. He was just making threes from like 5 feet behind the line. And I'm like, wow, and he can handle the ball. And then Hunter also against Lincoln just kind of took over at the end and was able to seal out the win. So they're definitely clicking at the right time. Some huge wins for Johnston, and then tough loss for some of those other teams. Lincoln, got close, got ranked, I think, all the way up to third in Division II, and then just started kind of losing some games. So that kind of helped reels them back. And then Wheeler, I feel like I've been hurting them. It hurts them all year that they started kind of late with the league games. So they've been staying off the rankings, even though they hadn't lost in the league game. So finally they were going to get in, or they might still get in, right? They're going to get in, and then, they lose the game against Johnston. That's very tough. So it's just that time of year where every win, every game matters so much.
Yeah, it's closing quick, and there's some big wins for Johnston, and let's see what you got for your rankings, as you mentioned. Let's see what Wheeler is, if they made it or if they didn't make it.
All right, so Division II, like I mentioned, definitely some shakeup. Now there's some teams that lost, there's some teams who be making a run, trying to get into the rankings. There's teams who, like I said, Wheeler before, they just had some little league games that it was tough to, just give them credit for being undefeated when they had played such a little game. So we had kind of cut them off the rankings. But here's what we got for Division II now. Tolman, that had gone up as high as, I think, third in the Division II. They're settling at number 5 now. Had a tough loss recently, but they're I think, believe 7-2 in Division II. So, got to give them credit's due, right? So they've been playing some good games, beating some good teams. They've had some losses, but still, team high in the standings. So got to give them some credit and put them in the Division II rankings. Number 4, Wheeler. So Wheeler gets in. They only have 1 loss, but they still have, I believe, 3 league games to play. So yes, they only have 1 loss, but they played, as fewer, 3 fewer games than some teams who already have their 9 league games. So we got to kind of wait and see what they do. If they go undefeated the rest of the season, they end up, at 8-1. Then you kind of give them credit for that. But for right now, that's kind of where they are now. They would have been higher, obviously, if now they were 6-0 instead of 5-1. But that loss to Johnston kind of settles them in at number 4. But definitely a team that's very, very talented. Travis Cobain is a lethal scorer. So defenses try everything, and they can't do it. So I was watching the game the other day against Lincoln, and Lincoln started with like a diamond and one, press on him, and I was like, oh, and he made them get out of that right away because he was still scoring. So really good kid. Number 3, Portsmouth. So I think really the flip flop there would have been if Wheeler had been undefeated. Wheeler could have gone up to as high as number 2. With that loss, that kind of keeps Portsmouth at number 3, who's, like I said, had those first tough losses at the beginning of the year to Pilgrim and East Greenwich, but then has just been winning ever since. So they get credit for that. Pilgrim continues to be, number 2 there. Like I said, they lost to East Greenwich. They haven't lost to anyone else. It's fun watching them battle against St. George's team, prep school that's very, very good. It's good to see that matchup between Taylor Bowen and Tyreek Weeks that I was hoping for that I got. So that was good to watch. But Pilgrim is legit. Pilgrim is ready for the playoffs. And then number 1, no surprise there. East Greenwich just continues to win, finish their undefeated season. Jack is playing amazing. All the role players are playing amazing as well. So it'll be good to see what they do in the playoffs. What do you think here?
I think these are great. Yeah, I think it's funny because at Division II South, those are all the top 3 teams in Division II South in the standings. They're really tough, and Wheeler went on a great run. I think, like you said, Travis Coben is an unbelievable player. He dropped 32, I believe, against Lincoln, and they also had 28 against Johnston. So he's a baller, man. He can play. Tolman is right there. Like you said, they had a tough loss against Lincoln, but keeps them in the rankings. Is there an outside looking in? Who do you have? Anyone on the 6 in that 6-7 spot? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, it's crazy because in Division II there's just so many scenarios, so there's still so much to be figured out. But a team like Johnston that is making a run towards the end now, being some good quality teams, could have snuck in if some of these other teams had lost. It's just, I think Division II, a lot of teams already have their kind of records kind of established, and they already finished all their league games. And you're 7-2. It's tough to put a team above you, even though they've been winning lately. So those top 3 teams kind of have been settled into there. Wheeler's trying to get in there, so Wheeler runs out the rest of the season. They're going to probably bump one of those teams out because we're just waiting for them to get their league games in. We know they're good, just waiting for them to get their league games in to kind of solidify their spot. But yeah, Division 2 is tough, and a lot is going to change. Like, we're going to show the playoff seeding in a little bit, but a lot is going to change there.
Yeah, big time. That's going to be interesting. Let's jump to those Division 2 playoffs and see if there's been any shakeup from last week of what we started the season were to end last week, and if the season were to end this week.
All right, let's do it.
Here are the Division 2 playoffs outlook and what we have so far. Reminder, if the season ended today, this is what it would look like, and just a reminder that the four South and the 5 North end up playing each other in the first round, and vice versa for the 5 South and the 4 North end up playing each other, and then 2 North and then 3 South, and then vice versa, 2 South and then 3 North end up playing each other. So this is what it looks like if the season were to end today. So Rogers actually was a 5 seed last week. Now they're a 4 seed, and then Lincoln was a 4 seed last week, and now they're a 5 seed in the North. So these 2 teams would face off against each other. Johnston, with their run, they're able to sneak in, so they are now a 4 seed in the North, and Coventry still stays at a 5 seed in the South. East Greenwich takes it still number 1 in the South, and I believe has taken that spot number 1. And then it's Portsmouth versus Tolman still, and the South North matchup there. And then we have Wheeler North right now, currently, where they have some games left to play. And then Burrowville is 3 in the North, and then Pilgrim is 2 in the South. They would face each other in the first round. What are your thoughts on these matchups and a little bit of shakeup?
Yeah, now some amazing matches, and it'll be good to just see the crossover. So a lot of these, obviously, the South teams have played each other all year, North has played each other all year. But it'll be good to see some of these crossover matchups. Like, just looking at, number 2, number 3, Pilgrim versus Burrowville. Obviously, Burrowville has been playing good all year, had some tough losses, but they're a very good defensive team. To see them go against Pilgrim would be amazing. Portsmouth Tolman, another good game. Tolman, has been playing well. But it'll be good to see them against a very tough Portsmouth team. I think sometimes when you look at the standings, it may look like, the South is a lot stronger than the North just based off records. But does that mean that the North is tougher because they're beating up on each other, or it's just, so it'll be just good to see them go against each other in those cross matchups. So yeah, Division 2 and Division 1, when they actually get to crossover, is going to be very fun to watch because, they haven't played each other at all. So
yeah, it's gonna be great. Do you think there's like a 4 or 5 seed that like might have the possibility to, make a run or, even make an upset?
Well, I think Lincoln is a very, very good team. Obviously, they've lost a couple games recently. So, if they stay where they are now and they have to, face East Greenwich after they win they're kind of pretty much like their playing matchup, that's a tough matchup. But I think Lincoln can make a run because we have Octavio Brito and I don't want to mispronounce his name, but Chidobe, I think is the other guy's name.
Yeah.
Nwanko, like those are 2 very big athletic players, and they have a lot of other good players too. They have a small shooter, Preston D'Souza, who plays very well too. So they can make a little run. Like if they get in there and for somehow are able to upset East Greenwich, they can make a little run. Same thing with Johnston. We see what they could do. We see what they've been able to do. If Johnston can, sneak by Wheeler and then all of a sudden, they're playing other teams, that'll be interesting. But that'll be fun to watch. But if a 4-5 team can make a little run, but it's tough because I think Division 2 is very top heavy, and this for a reason. They're top heavy. Those teams are very good.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I think it's pretty much I feel like it's almost anyone's game with all these teams. Like you mentioned, all the South, the record in the South, everyone's pretty close in record. And then, the North, like you said, the North looks like they're just beating up on each other and then trying to fight. They're all battling for position right now. But yeah, it's going to be interesting once, the season ends and the final standings are completed and see where everyone is. Yeah. Let's go to so we do have an interview with number 1 seed of the South, East Greenwich, Jack McMullen. We'd be ashamed if we didn't mention congratulations to Jack on his 54 points and, making in the single scoring record, 13 points, 13 single scoring record for East Greenwich, and he had 13 3-pointers and just an unbelievable night. I mean, what are your thoughts about that game before we get into that interview?
I mean, Jack did a great game. Obviously, East Greenwich having a great year, and great basketball player, but even a much better kid. And you'll be able to see that in the interviews. We just had some great talks with Jack. And he's a kid who I think has a bright future, in basketball, outside of basketball. So it's good to have kind of an ambassador of our, high school basketball game. Like Jack is just a good kid. So yeah, great talks, great laughs with Jack. So definitely a good interview.
Yeah. All right. Here's Jack. All right. We welcome on to the show Jack McMullen. Jack McMullen signing autographs and making all these interviews and everything like that. And we appreciate his time for joining us. Jack, first of all, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. All right. So Jack, I want to get into it. Last night you had a record-setting night. You did some great things. What is the feeling like scoring 54?
It's a really cool feeling, honestly. A lot of hard work that I've put in with my teammates, coaches, and my dad at night shooting, and then having so many people text me last night, reaching out, like the EGBA community, kids that I've watched over the years, reaching out. It was really cool and nice. It was a good night.
Nice. Good to hear. So talk a little bit more about like what it meant, not just to you, but your family, specifically your dad. You mentioned your dad. What did it mean to him?
Oh, I mean, he's my number one guy, really. Like, we spent so many hours in the gym, like gym shooting. He cares and wants it so bad for me, and making him proud, coming home because he couldn't go to the game, coming home and just seeing the smile on his face. I mean, I was so proud that I made him proud.
That's great. That's really great. And then, when you're shooting those 3-pointers, you made 13 3-pointers. After you hit like a few, were you like, okay, are one of these going to miss, or we're just like keep firing to see what happens? Heat check?
Well, yeah. Once I get in the groove, I usually keep shooting until I get like a back rim or something like that. Cause usually after, I said this previously to someone else, like once you hit 4 in a row, usually the back rims start coming in, like, cause get unlucky. But last night they kept on falling, and I wasn't mad about the no back rim.
And did you realize how many you had as you were playing? And, were you kind of hoping you could stay in the game for those final 3 minutes and get 60, or were you cool with like, I broke the record, let's get me out of here?
I wasn't mad on the bench after, the last 2 minutes. I wasn't frustrated, but I didn't know how many points I had, but I knew I've hit a lot of threes because I hit a lot, kind of. So I knew I was probably up there.
That's awesome. And then, Ramon, do you want to ask the next question? Is that?
Yeah. I think, and you and the team, you guys are clicking really well, undefeated season. Mm-hmm. How do you compare this team to that Pat Shea buzzer beater team from a couple of years ago? You think you guys could pull it off and win it all this year?
Hopefully the same thing, but the Pat Shea buzzer beater 2019 team was going into playoffs as a 10th seed, winning a playoff game, that's all we needed. Keep on winning, upset, and then seeing that buzzer beater shot go in, it was just like incredible. This year, a little different, but hopefully same result. I think we locked a 1 seed last night, so playoffs start 2 weeks. Hopefully we win 3 games and end it how we all want to.
That's great. Yeah, you guys look like you're having a lot of fun out there when guys are all playing. So it looks like you guys are having a great time. Now, what are your plans after high school? Are you going straight to the NBA draft? You got college, you got prep school, we got autographs coming out. Can I get an autograph? Yeah. Can Ramon and I get an autograph?
Yeah. I'm honestly considering prep school, just another year to better my grades, get a year in the weight room, and develop as a player and mature a little bit, honestly. So to get ready for the next step in college, because I've talked to a few coaches and they really want to see me play live and want to see me play in person. So I think another year of prep school, help my academics, develop as a person and a player. I think that'd be the best fit for me, but I'm not set on a single thing yet.
That's great. That's awesome. Well, I mean, that's all the questions I have. Ramon, do you have anything to add or anything? Or?
Now, how do you follow up a 54-point game? What do you got in store for Coventry?
Undefeated regular season. That's what we got.
There you go. I like that.
That's crazy. 55. He's got 55.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that will happen again.
Yeah. Well, Jack, it was an awesome performance. It's a very, rare to see 54-point performance, in the high school level. And that's just absolutely amazing what you did last night, and great shooting overall. We saw those shots, man. Those shots were bombs like that. Anything.
But as all 3-point shooting goes, like for every make, there's a miss. So I'm due for I'm not, hopefully in practice tomorrow, I'm due for like 10 misses in a row.
Yeah, there you go.
But now, definitely congratulations. And any prep school or college coach is going to be lucky to get you, not just a good basketball player, but a great young man. So definitely wish you the best of luck in basketball in the future.
That means a lot. I appreciate you guys having me on and everything you do for everyone and all the kids in Rhode Island.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Well, Jack, thank you very much. And good luck going forward with the playoffs and everything.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, no problem. All right. On to Division I. That was a great interview with Jack. Definitely congratulations to him. So let's move on to Division I. Let's just start in with some of the non-league games. First, we had St. George's versus Pilgrim. Not Division I, Pilgrim's Division II, but non-league. St. George's second game back in action. They won on Friday night, and they ended up, this is kind of a matchup. We want to see Tyreek versus Taylor Bowman. Taylor Bowman had 22 points, and Dominic Mello had 22 points. And then Peter Kay for Pilgrim and had 16, and Tyreek had 13. What are your thoughts on this matchup, St. George's versus Pilgrim?
Yeah, so it was good to see St. George, as they call it, the lockout was finally over for them. They started very, very late compared to any other team. Because St. Andrew's been playing our high school teams for a while now, but St. George started a little late. And their first game, St. George's against Classical, was a good one. Obviously, you could tell with St. George's first game, they had a lot of things they had to figure out. And Classical is a tough team, so Classical made it tough for them to just, a lot of times you expect these prep schools to just beat on the RIL teams, but Classical made it tough. But St. George was able to pull out that win, and then you see them against Pilgrim. Like, all right, another good matchup. Pilgrim started up, I think it was like 15-9, and I'm like, oh wow, so Pilgrim's gonna give them a run. And then St. George was able to do some work. Pilgrim was able to battle back after the third quarter. I think Pilgrim was only down 5. But, like you said, those two guys, Don Mello and Taylor Bowen, were just too tough. Both Division I studs. Taylor Bowen is ranked, top 20 in the country. It's not in Rhode Island, in the country. And the kid is very, very good. Long, can drive it, can shoot it. But Don Mello's playing amazing. He could just shoot it so well. But, hey, Pilgrim played amazing. Peter Kay looked like he belonged there. He's playing some Division I products, playing at the top prep school, and Peter was just shooting it, getting to where he needed to get to, step backs, layups. So give him a lot of props. And yeah, that matchup between Taylor Bowen and Tyreek Reese is exactly what I wanted. You could see, you couldn't really hear, but you could kind of see a little, chip in here and there. It was like they were going at it. And so it was amazing to see. But a great game for St. George's, a nice little tune-up game for them. Great game for Pilgrim to play a really good team like that before they start getting ready for the playoffs. So that's why these non-league games that were scheduled in this extra week of regular season are very important for some of these teams. So think about it. A team like Pilgrim goes and plays St. George's, kind of gets used to that level of competition, then they come back and play another Division II team. That's kind of a good tune-up game for them. So very, very good for to see St. George's, and very good to see some of our teams in the RIL battle against them. So that's very good.
Yeah, definitely. And then we had another one too. We had St. Andrews versus Shea. St. Andrews was 150-40. They're led by Liggins, who had 17 points, and Billings 15 points. I apologize for not having the first names because I didn't see it in the box score. So I apologize to the young men that they are watching the show. That I apologize, I don't have the last first names, but and then Shea hung in there. They're led by Joey Ray Serrano with 13 points, and Kenny Silvio Miranda with 10 points for Shea. So, what are your thoughts on St. Andrews too as well? And like you'd mentioned, some prep schools playing some IRL schools. So
yeah, no, definitely. I think this has been a tough year, obviously with COVID and everything. And tough season. I'm glad we'll be able to play the games, but there's been two positives that I really like about this year. One, all the teams are streaming their games now, so it's awesome to just be able to tune in and watch all the games around the state. And then two, school like St. Andrews is playing a lot of our IL teams. They have no choice but to this year, right? But thanks to Coach Hart for doing all the hard work to make sure he schedules all these games. Thanks for all the RIL teams who are signing up for this. And St. Andrews varsity has been able to play a lot of our teams. They're not as deeply talented, obviously, as their prep team, but they've been able to get some good games. So this is good for them to get a win against Shea. Liggins and Gordon Billings been playing well all year, so they've been kind of leading that team. So it's good to see them kind of continue to do that. And for Shea, it's a good game. It's a good non-league game, to kind of step out of the RIL and go play a decent team. Tough loss for them, but I think it's just good that these kids are getting to play basketball over and over again. So
definitely. And I think in an interview later today, I have with Coach Hart coming out. He mentions that he's been enjoying playing some of the games here in Rhode Island because he doesn't have to travel as far. So he's like, boom, I'm home.
I just hope, when I ask you, Coach Hart, continue scheduling these games going forward. Obviously, this year you had to, and obviously when you have a busier schedule in the NEPSAC, you have no choice but to cut that down. But continue to schedule, maybe 1 to 2 teams into your schedule early in the year, just kind of get your team ready, because I think we love to watch it, and it's a great opportunity for those kids to stack up against some of the great talent at St. Andrews. Yeah,
definitely. Very excited too for the St. Andrews Georges soon to be matchups coming up soon.
Obviously, a lot of their schedules aren't public, but I think they have at least 2 games scheduled very soon. And I'm hoping they can add a couple more, because like I said, I think I said it joking around a couple weeks ago, why are they not playing a 7-game series? Like, that would be amazing. Just set up a 7-game series, let us watch it over and over again. But it'll be good to see that first matchup. I think they're playing on March 5th, the first matchup, just to see where they really stack up. Because I think last year with Tyler Kolek, I think St. Andrews was able to beat St. Andrews, and it was like, oh, St. Andrews lost an in-state team. Like, that's tough to see. So it'll be good to see St. Andrews, have revenge on their mind maybe. But it'll be a great matchup to see.
It's very exciting too for Rhode Island, for those 2 prep schools to be in Rhode Island and what they're doing, along with Rocky Hill is also making a climb up in that NEPSAC as well too. So it's going to be great to help put Rhode Island on the map too with some recruiting, and I think it might help with the RL with some RL players playing some of those NEPSAC teams.
Definitely.
All right. Let's jump into the Division 1. We had Smithfield versus Barrington on Friday. Barrington wins this one 69-49. They beat them by 20. Barrington make their playoff case. They're led by Connor Sullivan and Matt Rafa, who both had 12 points, while Smithfield was led by Mike Tardelli with 20 points. Sorry if I butchered your last name, Mike. What are your thoughts on this game for Barrington and Smithfield as well too?
Yeah, so there's a lot of player implication with that game. Obviously, both teams I think may have been 4-4 at the time. So it's a big win for Barrington. Barrington had another pivotal game earlier the week against Cumberland, which Cumberland was able to kind of sneak out and win. Khalil had a great game there, but Barrington needed this one and they got it. Matt Rafa's been playing great all game. Connor Sullivan is a big man who's honestly, they need to feed the ball more down to, because he's very effective. It's just they're not able to get him the ball as much. So that's a big win for Barrington. Tough loss for Smithfield, but huge win for Barrington. And Barrington, I want to give a shout out to my guy, Sean Bono. He unfortunately hurt his wrist during this game, and kind of his season's over. So just want to wish him a speedy recovery. But Barrington's been playing well, and for Smithfield, they had a much better season than I expected. And Mike Tartaglia has been able to play well all year. They had Jaden Sanders playing well all year. So a tough loss for Smithfield in a very pivotal spot, but that's how it goes. One team has to win, another has to lose.
Yeah, exactly. And then speaking of Cumberland, they ended up playing Woosocket, and Woosocket was able to get the upset here against Cumberland, which I think is a big win. A tough loss for Cumberland. It's a big loss for Cumberland and a big win for Woonsocket. Woonsocket had 5 guys in double figures. Shane with 16, Abu with 15, Devante with 14, and Jahib with 12 points, and Jared Downing with 11 points. And then Colin, who looks like who has made his return for Cumberland, led all scorers with 32 points. What are your thoughts on this game for Cumberland and for Woonsocket as well?
Yeah. So this has been an up and down season for a lot of teams. So Cumberland earlier in the week gets a huge one against Barrington to kind of solidify their spot. So now I'm saying they probably look ahead to Woonsocket. We win that one. We're gonna shoot up not just the power rankings, but also the playoff seeding. But that's a rivalry game. We talk about rivalries, anything can happen. And sure enough, Woonsocket wins a big one. That's a big upset for them. I'm sure they wanted that, they needed that. Tough loss for Cumberland, but Woonsocket's been playing well all year. So you can see balanced scoring. And Jared Downing specifically has been playing very well, a lot of assists and a lot of scoring. Good to see Colin back out there. Colin, we've been waiting for him to play all year. Comes out with 32 points his first game, unfortunately in a loss. So Colin, keep it going. But Cumberland needs to win, and they're gonna very likely in the playoffs. I think they are in the playoffs. They're gonna get Division One's gonna be tough the whole way, so gonna get a tough matchup. But I'm sure it makes it a lot easier with Colin back on the court.
Definitely. And then our final game for Division One was Mount Pleasant versus Wesley. Mount Pleasant was just won 66-37. They were able to get a victory over Wesley, and Hansel Hayes had 29 points to lead the way for Mount. He had 22 points to lead the way for Mount Pleasant. What are your thoughts on Mount Pleasant's a winnable game to beat the team they're supposed to beat? What are your thoughts on this one?
I know Mount Pleasant beat up on your hometown, huh?
Yeah.
No, but Mount Pleasant's really good. They're very, very good. And they've been good all year, and Hansel Hayes has just been leading the way. Like I said, he's just such a good scorer. So I wasn't surprised to see this big win. For Mount Pleasant, it's just about how they do against the top team. So they played against Hendricken and lost against Hendricken, which is tough. And they play LaSalle this week and lost against LaSalle. So it's they got to beat some of these top teams to consider themselves a top team. So it'll be good to see where they end up in the playoffs. Obviously, their seeding is going to drop because they're losing some of these games. So they're going to get some tough matchups. So they're going to get to face some of these teams again in the playoffs. So they just got to make sure they show up.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's see those rankings and see if there's any shakeups from this past week with the power rankings.
Okay, so Division One, I guess compared to the other two divisions that have some shakeups, might be a boring week for Division One when it comes to power rankings. Some things changed, but a lot of things just stayed the same. Those top four teams kind of solidified themselves early in the year. So, a loss is not necessarily going to knock them out. There are some teams from the outside looking in that, are going to try to take some of these spots. So you got to beware, but not much of a shakeup in Division One. So East Providence retains that fifth spot. They got all their league games out of the way. They haven't, lost. They play a tough Portsmouth team in a non-league game and ended up winning that, even though in overtime. But it shows they're a strong team. Outside looking in right there, though, Cumberland and North Kingston are going for that fifth spot, right? They won that fifth spot, so they have one league game left where East Providence is done. So if they get some meaningful wins in these last game or a very convincing win, they might easily take that fifth spot from East Providence in the power rankings. Number 4, Mount Pleasant. Yes, they lost this week to LaSalle. LaSalle was able to show why they're the number one team in the state, but just that loss this week doesn't really put East Providence or any other team ahead of Mount Pleasant. Had Cumberland beaten Woosocket, maybe they would have made a case for jumping all the way to number 4 because they would have had a very good record, but yet able to maybe jump over Mount Pleasant because they would have had some big wins, but they lost to Woosocket. So Woosocket kind of plays spoiler there to Cumberland. So don't blame me, blame Woosocket if you're not happy for not being in the Number 3 continues to be Classical. That loss to East Providence has proven to be very tough for them to kind of climb up any higher. But their performance against St. George's was just, I know non-league, but it just showed they're going to be really tough in the playoffs. So whoever has to play them in the playoffs, get ready because Classical's coming to play. Number 2 continue to be Hendricken. They haven't done anything to lose that spot. And then number 1, I know LaSalle got a lot of slack for picking LaSalle number 1 early in the year from everyone, including Jeff. Proven to be that they belong there. Obviously, they haven't played some of the other toughest teams, but they did beat some tough teams. So it'll be good to see these playoffs. But what do you think about this Division One rankings?
Yeah, like you said, not much of a shakeup, but yeah, I agree that they look good. I know I gave some slack about LaSalle being number 1 over Classical for a little while there, but I think these are some. I think these are good. I mean, they look great. Like you said, I think Cumberland had that opportunity to make that jump in, and they had a tough loss against Woosocket. But it's gonna be interesting when the playoffs, because I think your kind of top teams are kind of set up. You can see what happens with those guys when they face each other.
Yeah, and honestly, it like I said, I think the pivotal games for Division One, at least for the point as it relates to the power rank, is not necessarily playoffs, is what Cumberland and North Kingston do with their last game. So, if they both, if one of them wins just by like 40 or has a very big win in this last week, they might take that 5th spot from East Providence. So that's something to look out for this year. But the playoffs is a completely different animal, and with the seeding, so that's something we have to see where people stand right now.
Definitely.
But then obviously, like we always say, state kind of just works itself out with a minor shakeup. So you'll see number 1 continues to be LaSalle. Ever since Hendricken lost that first spot by losing to Classical, LaSalle has taken over that spot and has not let go. And honestly, Raph and Dimitri are just that good. And then some of their role players have just been playing amazing as well. Number 2, Hendricken. They've climbed up, but not been able to overtake LaSalle because LaSalle hasn't lost. But they're up there as well. Number 3, Classical. Very, very good team. Like I said, it's just there's so many good teams in Division 1. Number 3 doesn't make you a bad team. You're still that good. Then number 4, a little shakeup. East Greenwich jumps up 1 spot. So although that loss didn't hurt Mount Pleasant in Division 1 power rankings, there is a team in Division 2 that's that good that hasn't been losing. So you losing again kind of gives East Greenwich that spot. I think East Greenwich can compete against anybody in the state. So it'll be good to see, unfortunately, there's not a state tournament this year. It would have been good to see them face some of those other teams. Number 5, Mount Pleasant, they dropped 1 spot. No shame there. Had a tough loss against the number 1 team in the state. But so it only drops them 1 spot, but they're still a very, very good team. Number 6, East Providence. They keep that spot. Like I said, East Providence, your spot is in jeopardy depending on kind of what Cumberland and North Kingston do. So those are 2 teams that can kind of jump into the rankings anytime now. Number 7, Pilgrim. Been playing amazing all year and stay in that top 10 spot. Pilgrim could play against any D1 team as well, I think. Number 8, Portsmouth. Number 9, Wheeler. Like I said, that could have been flip-flopped had Wheeler beaten Johnston. Who knows how high Wheeler could have gone if they were still undefeated, but that loss to Johnston is pretty tough. And then number 10, North Kingston. So North Kingston been out of the rankings for a little bit, but I think, they're going to pick it up as they always do towards the end of the year. Could have been Cumberland. Again, that loss in Woosocket has been very tough for Cumberland. It wasn't like they lost by a lot, but it's a tough loss. So North Kingston gets that 10th spot, but Cumberland could jump in easily, depending on what they do this last week.
Yeah. I think they look great. It's fun. It's Wheeler. They got their season going. They make the jump in there, and then North Kingston makes the jump back in there. I think North Kingston's a very good team too, as well too. Wheeler is too. These are awesome. It'd be great to see East Greenwich play one of these Division 1 schools as well too. I know they did play PCD and they beat PCD one Division 1, but it'd be cool to see them play in the state tournament against some of these guys. Same thing with Pilgrim and Portsmouth. Those teams are very good stacked, like Division 2 teams along with Wheeler. So it'd be interesting to see. It would be cool to see these mix-ups. With where was Davies on this? Were they on the cusp or were they close to making that top?
Yeah, I mean it's tough because I think, especially with this season being shorter, it gives those Division 3 less of a sample to kind of show that they belong. So obviously Davies is still undefeated, but they're 9-0, right? So it's 9 wins. In a regular year, they might have been by now, 16-0, and then at that point you're like, man, 16 games in a row, you have to get them in. So it's tough. But I saw Davies playing St. Andrew's Prep, and obviously it's St. Andrew's Prep, so they ended up losing by a lot. But they played well at the beginning. They, so that shows what they can do against very athletic big teams, which is usually the difference between D1 and D3. So, if Raheem goes off, they can probably, compete against any team. So it's not far-fetched that they could have been ranked, but it's just a shorter season, a shorter time for them to be able to make a case. So.
Yeah, that's tough.
I mean, if they win out the Division 3 playoffs, maybe by the end of the year they can end up being in there.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, let's see those Division 1 playoffs, and then we'll see if there's been any shakeup or any changes.
All right.
Here are Division 1 playoffs outlook. Again, this is the season ended today, and as well, Division 1 is the same as Division 2. We have the 5 seed versus the 5 South seed versus the 4 North seed, and vice versa for 5 North versus 4 South. And same thing with 2 South versus 3 North, and then 2 North versus 3 South. So this is what the playoffs would look like today. In Division 1, we'd have the number 4 seed versus East Greenwich in the North. East Providence, number 4 East Providence in the North versus number 5 Narragansett in the South. Number 4 Central in the South playing number 5 Barrington in the North. LaSalle is the number 1 seed in the North, so they will end up playing the winner of 4-5. Cumberland still able to keep their playoff hopes alive, and they're number 3 seed in the North, and they play a number 2 Classical in the South. Bishop Hendricken against that number 1 seed at the moment, as their number 1 seed in the South versus they'll play the winner of the 4 or 5 seed of the Central Barrington matchup. And we have North Kingston in the South versus Mount Pleasant in the North. What are your thoughts on these potential matchups? And if the season were to end today, how excited would you be for these games?
These players would be exciting from the beginning. So just being able to see, East Providence with Narragansett. Narragansett is a very tough, hard-nosed team. So they would be, a handful for East Providence, who's currently, ranked in the top 5 in Division 1. But, they would have to face a tough Narragansett. So that would be fun to watch. And then Central versus Barrington would just be amazing. Watching Jaden Levent versus Matt Raffa would be really good to watch. Obviously, Barrington loses a very key player in Sean Bono for the rest of the year, but I think they'll still have enough firepower to compete against anybody. So that would be good to see. And then once we get into the top 8, once there's 8 teams to go, all those matchups are amazing. So LaSalle versus whoever would be good. Cumberland versus Classical would be a really good game. Now with Colin back, it's different. It's different. So Cumberland versus Classical would be a really good game. I would love to see, Colin versus Marquise Buchanan at Classical. Just them going back and forth at it. It would just be amazing to watch. And then, Hendricken having to face any of those 2 teams that come over. And then North Kingston versus Mount Pleasant would be a battle. That would be probably the key game in that round. Because those are 2 really good teams. So it'd be good to see Mount Pleasant, lost against some of the top teams, but it'd be good to see them against North Kingston just to see if they're real or not. So, yeah, this would just be exciting from beginning to end.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be some great matchups, and once those official seasons get in, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, it'd be good. I think that Cumberland Classical game would, like you had mentioned, would be probably one of the better ones in the top, and North Kingston versus Mount Pleasant, because when Moynihan's been balling out, Ansel Hayes has been balling out, so it'd be good to see those 2 guys go against each other. It'd be a lot of fun. These would be a lot of fun games to watch. I feel like much watch TV here, but yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm excited for the playoffs to get going. We've been talking about them all, for the past couple of weeks. The bracketology has been coming out, so we've been getting excited, getting pumped up for these games.
No, definitely. This would be. I'm ready for them to start. Obviously, it's kind of bittersweet because once the playoffs start, that means the season's almost over. But definitely it would be good to get to watch all these games. And better than ever, even if we can't be in one building like we have been before watching all these games, they're all streamed. So it'll be good to just be able to watch all of them, set up 4 different screens and just be watching all of them would be amazing.
Yeah, definitely be a lot of fun. Yeah, just very, very excited to look forward to these playoffs. Great show this week. So we had some great matchups, some upsets, some undefeated seasons ruined. Just a lot of fun. Looking forward to the playoffs as the season comes to an end on Wednesday. Were any last things you want to say, Ramon, before we sign off? And I know.
No, I think like you said, it's been a great year. Glad they were able to add this final week so teams could get kind of all their games in. So there's still some pivotal games. I know I had promised the season awards for this show, but I think with some more games still left, I want to kind of give players a chance to make a statement, because there's a lot of the awards are still kind of very close on who we're choosing or who's getting honorable mentions and whatnot. So still this last week still matters. So wanted to get to see that, but just looking forward to the playoff seeding kind of being completely solid so we can know who's going to play who, and then just to see how these kids end the season. And just want to kind of congratulate all the seniors that were able to play this year. Would have sucked if the season got canceled and they didn't get to play there last year. So I'm glad the RIL, the refs, everybody was able to make it happen, because it's been an amazing year.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great number too. So tough season to play through, and credit to everyone just making it work and getting it done. So this is a lot of fun. Definitely looking forward to the playoffs and seeing what happens there and what we'll witness going forward.
Definitely.
All right, Ramon, I will talk to you later. Great show again today, and we will see you next week.